Hello and welcome to the Dirge of Mourning. I am your host, Andrew, alongside Terry. In today's episode, we will be looking at Funeral's first album entitled Tragedies, released in 1995. This album marks something within heavy metal that most people probably don't know.
Probably
The
not.
very first full-length Funeral Doom album.
Interesting.
This is a milestone, like I said, for metal, or should I say a tombstone?
Uh-huh.
Mm. This album celebrates 30 years of the band's legacy. So, what I decided to do is celebrate that 30 years by reviewing this album along with you, Terry. And let's kick off this amazing concept known as Funeral Doom, off with Funeral's Tragedies. Acoustic guitar is our opening, and it is absolutely fucking beautiful. I'm
It's
sorry.
it's very impressive. It's not just acoustic, it's classical guitar. So it's very impressive playing. This is very hard to do. And yeah, I had to throw that in there because it impressed me immediately.
And then after that little small intro, we're introduced to the female vocals as the
Yes.
band plays this unique style of doom metal. It is heavy, it's emotional, yet somehow orchestral. Its delivery is both one of sorrow, but also a hint of beauty. It's just
Definitely.
fantastic.
It is. It's a good mix. Really impressive.
It is. It is. As we reach the 3 minute and 20-second point, the tone shifts slightly to a more doomier mood, if that could even be possible. Well, it is when you introduce the concept of death growls, and they go back and forth between the operatic singing and the harsh guttural sounds of the male vocalist. Then we come to a point where pure pain is expressed in a guitar solo. Absolutely fantastically done here. A perfect
I
cross
agree.
between the death growls and the female vocals come back and forth, running through that, almost classic sense of doom metal. There is
It's
these
very,
elements there.
uh, uh, also, we're speaking about female voice. It's almost to the point of opera singing. I would classify it as very classically trained voice.
I would agree.
Um,
I would definitely agree with that. It is.
you know, it's very
Oh,
different to hear all of these things blended together.
and done perfectly. It's not like other bands that have attempted this, where one part is really, really good and the other part fails. These are like musicians and vocalists that know exactly where, how, and what to do at any given moment. As we come into more of the darker elements of this song, mood and atmosphere truly do gravitate towards the heartache of loss. And it is with this song we can see these elements slowly start to take shape into what Funeral and Funeral Doom evolve into. And I think this is a great first step in that.
Yeah, because it's their, you said, first album. And so it's laying the groundwork of something that, I guess my question would be, did they know that they were creating a new genre and laying a groundwork, or did they just simply do it? Did it just evolve? So that would be a really good thing
Yes,
to know.
yes. I wonder if the mystery shall ever be solved.
I think it will.
Maybe one day.
Yeah,
But the
maybe one
song
day.
does fade out at the 12-minute and 24-second mark. The acoustic intro alongside female vocals are, again, outstanding.
Oh, absolutely.
I genuinely don't know what else to say. That is just absolutely amazing.
Well, I noticed that at the very beginning, to me, the overall sound of the music had a feeling of a lullaby at the beginning. It was very calming in a way because it had that sort of lilting, swaying.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
feeling.
It is. It does kind of remind me of like trees swaying in a cemetery. It is just great imagery. The doom metal, of course, it comes in with its melancholy raw tones, slow pacing, just all round eerie, moody, bleak, all those fun descriptive terms. The death growls and female operatic sounds mix extremely well
Yeah.
together.
That I enjoyed. Hearing that together, the way it was done, because they're both very good. I've heard people try to do this before in some other songs, but this worked. So there's a way to do it and a way probably not to do it.
Exactly. That's why I said in the last song. Some folk try one way, it sounds good, and then other times it's like, maybe you should just leave that to the professionals.
But I noticed that this was a very good blending.
Again, with this song, we start to see more of the funeral elements coming into it. The metal side of the band is also still within the format here. Again, shows off the talents of the band, going from a more operatic sound to a more heavy metal sound, and they blend that atmosphere in perfectly with this gloomy overtone, harmonizing all the vocal talents here. And again, this is only within the first 3 minutes, and it's just mind-blowing. I sit here even now trying to like look over my notes going, I don't fucking know. It was just amazing. What do you want me to say? It was just that damn good. But just like any funeral song, it keeps trudging forward like a march, a dirge, if you will.
Yes, it did. It does have. This whole album, I thought, had that feeling for sure. The sound that makes the feeling. I did notice a couple things having to do with the drum beats. The beats were actually, to me, like a punctuation when something's like important. So you're gonna have, like, say, some of the lyrics, and then you're gonna have this pause, and you're gonna have this. And I think what it's saying is, pay attention.
Absolutely. Because
So
without those little marks, we don't get the images in the head of, like, you know, the old abandoned cemeteries of loss,
yeah.
the, you know, those classical paintings almost of, like, you know, death and such.
Well, this particular album, I think, brings, and I'll speak more about that during the lyrics, but definitely hold true to these images. I mean, I kind of was blown away by it because it just in your head, you're just seeing everything like this, right?
It genuinely makes me speechless knowing that this is, like, again, their first album, and this is the level that they're bringing. This is the kind of stuff that you would expect, like, maybe in a third or fourth type of album. And already we're getting this amazing work right off the bat.
Yeah, very
And
high
again,
quality.
we've only just reached the 7-minute mark within the song,
Yeah.
and we again get that classical acoustic playing, the
Yes.
female
Yeah.
vocals intertwining. It almost feels like there's an atmosphere of like a veil of like mourning and gloom attached to the way that this is presented, and I'm just absolutely in love with it. And then that moment is almost broken with the reminder of this is reality. When the death growls come back, you realize that there is no escape from this, you know, inevitable, like, loss and grief in terms of how the music is played here. There's a reminder that life and death are, you know, one and the same almost. You know, you cannot have one without the other.
Right. And I do think this entire album speaks to that.
I do too. Especially in terms of like how the music is
theme,
laid out here.
We'll get into the whole theme and all that after a bit.
We then get an absolute amazing guitar solo, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, it
really
goes
good.
into that elements of, you know, we've got that dirge part, but we've also got the heavy metal parts, and it just blends so well. Again, I'm still amazed that this is just the fucking second track, and it's only their first fucking album.
It flows from one part of the song to the other. You don't.
It's not jarring. It's seamless.
Right. In Funeral Doom, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to do this part now. Okay, now we're going to do this part. And this is not to say that these are bad bands or that this is bad.
No, it's just that
definitely we'll hear these parts where with this, it kind of blends from one thing to the other. So you don't have those, like you said, jarring stops. You have this flow.
Exactly. And again, when the vocals come back and they give us that, you know, sense of despair and melancholy, that is very typical within doom metal in and of itself. But here, there is a weight to it that you cannot shift. At least, that's what it's given me. There's this like heavy sense of, again, reality almost kicking in.
The words I used for this is very serious.
Yes.
We're not playing around.
No, this is serious shit right here. The song slowly fades and comes to an end at the 13 and 27 mark. Similar to the last two songs, we get this classical acoustic sound as our intro. Then that doomy riff kicks in, bringing all the dread and despair that we've all slowly starting to come to love on this album. Again, just trying to imagine listening to this for the first time, like, holy fuck.
Well, and really reading the lyrics with it. Wow.
So the vocals are yet again just amazing.
Very operatic, very operatic, and blending of voices.
Absolutely. Spot on, perfect. Wouldn't change a damn thing at this point. Nothing. And again, that's only within the first 2 minutes. You know, we've got all of these great emotions just starting. Then we get what can only be described as death whispers from the vocals, with a very cool sort of like almost weird sound effect to it, like a very sort of growly whisper. Very cool, very cool. Like it a lot. You don't hear that too often, like, you know, a very sort of guttural whisper.
Yeah.
It was quite awesome. The female vocals, of course, come back and emphasize the mood of the music, which has now become a full-on funeral doom sound. And I need to emphasize that. This is the moment funeral doom is born.
Yes.
It's this moment.
Yes.
At around the 4-minute mark, that's when the foundations and the format and all of the traditional tropes and cliches of funeral doom were born. At that very moment, we go from that sort of 4-minute mark, and then we get, which I can only describe as a breathtaking guitar solo, adding to the overall mournful mood that this band has created. The mood that will eventually be described as funeral doom. Again, I'm going to emphasize this. This is the moment that history was made for this genre.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's more than just interesting. I think it's, it's like historical, because it is kind of interesting that we can actually pinpoint a time and an album that created a new genre. That's very...
Right, because normally it's just, oh, these bands or this sound created...
kind of evolve, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, this is an album that came out and said, okay, we're going to give you everything that you kind of know, we're going to shape it up just a little, but then, no, this is how we're going to start doing it from now on.
And
as they're playing,
I believe knowing how this sounds and what the things mean, I believe it was a decision.
I lean towards that idea too.
Yeah, I don't think it's just, we're just going to do this other thing. I do tend to think somebody knew what they were doing now and explained and expanded with the entire. This is very cool, very cool.
It is, and again, we like you said, we pinpoint the moment. We now have the exact seconds in time, all the way back then, as they were recording this, to go, and now it's Funeral Doom. No more fucking about. This is it. And again, that's only within that moment in time, and we bring it right back round to about the 7-minute mark, where the return of that acoustic sound returns, the beautiful female vocals, all round just, dismal, beautiful, perfect. The song ends at 8 minutes and 43 seconds. Once more, we get that epic acoustic sound, then the female vocals. And again, this is also the moment that it now becomes the very first full-on Funeral Doom track. We start with a more darker approach, a more classic sound, the very roots of the burial plot, if you will.
It's very, the words that I'm going to say would describe for me the overall, musical sound. Heavier and slow.
Like I said, it's those, very mournful moments that, we have now come to realize that this is how the band does their work.
I liked this song a lot.
Yeah, it's a very good track. It is. There is a tone shift to the vocal approach here. The singers are more disconnected in their delivery.
Well, and I noticed that the words were very slow.
Yes, like I said, this is how Funeral Doom is supposed to sound. You're supposed to deliver it with a certain cadence and a certain feel. This is full of emotion, of like wretched heartache and despair. The very landscape of what would become Funeral Doom and how bands approach it started with songs like this.
Yes, I would say I would say that too. Something
in terms of the music, there was almost this feeling of like a coffin being slowly lowered into the air. And honestly, this is just remarkable. Honestly, I don't know what else to say about this song. It is just remarkable of how over 30 years this has still stood the test of time.
Right. Well, it's timeless.
Exactly.
And universal, because we all live and we all die. So
precisely. This is why, again, for me, Funeral Doom and Funeral in general, this is the benchmark. You've got to reach it, and if you can't,
don't call yourself Funeral Doom.
that is the bare bones of it, folks. Just don't, if you cannot touch these elements, and again, a 30+ legacy here, just absolutely amazing. The song ends with a dark, misty cloud hanging over you, the way it should be. You should feel miserable, and that's why we love it. The track fades out, of course, at the 14 minute and 13 seconds. Now, I'm not going to say too much about this because I've already more or less summed it up in terms of music. I did a short not too long ago, which you can also check out, but I will say this. Absolutely love it. One of my favourite tracks on the album. And now I'm going to hand off to Terry to talk about her aspects of the music.
Well, I didn't really write a lot about the music, but this is what I did write, which is different from the other songs. I noticed that the strings were very, very pretty, well done with the guitar. That's what I noticed. Mostly I wrote about the lyrics, but an overall feeling, there's a feeling in this song, I'm not just speaking lyrics, but with the music and the lyrics together have a certain feeling in here. This song is very pretty. Music's really pretty. It's softer. It is softer than some of the other songs, but very pretty. Yeah, that's what I noticed about it. So if you like a little bit of string and a little bit of lighter, this one probably will appeal to you.
And of course, the song comes to an end at 9 minutes and 39 seconds. Your feelings on the music?
Medieval. Once again, I use this word with this band. I picture such, and the reason I don't say gothic is because gothic is always used and always overdone. I actually think there's a throwback to something a little
yes. There's a huge distinction here. There is a distinction here.
Yeah. So I'm not saying they're medievalists and it's all medieval.
No,
I'm
of course
saying
not.
There's a feeling of a sort of a medieval, churchy, misty quality that runs throughout. So
Agreed.
That's my overall impression.
So I'm going to sum it up like so. Being the first Funeral Doom album ever recorded, this laid down the foundation of what would be an underground, like a coffin, movement that would inspire many bands trying their hand at this. Some with a more human approach, others with a more metal element to their music. It will always be this classical approach of dirge and doom metal blending that will always sum up the true and undeniable legacy that is Funeral Doom. And of course, it goes without saying,
I'll probably slaughter this, but Terrine.
Yes, this is a Norwegian title, so we do apologize for fucking this up royally.
Right.
I'm sure the band is now laughing at us, going, haha, you English fucks.
The lyrics for this song are in Norwegian, so
yes. So we apologize if we missed the mark.
We did a translation, however, we probably are missing some things, but I think I got the general gist, meaning behind everything. And the lyrics are talking about flowers and how flowers at first the flowers in this story are very lovely and loving them, and I believe that the flowers are the metaphor, and so we have then the dying part of the flowers. So it's kind of like saying, you're like a flower, you're there, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and then you are gone. And I believe that's what is going on here. Plus, I got a theme of, I'm not sure why I wrote this. Bottomless tragedy.
So
those are some of the lyrics.
So I'm going to read my favorite part, right? And it includes that particular line.
Oh, does it? Okay, good.
I cry forever at your grave. May it harden my heart and send my lament to the heavenly realms. A lonely, mournful scream of bottomless tragedy.
Yes, that's my favorite. Those are my favorite words too.
I think that lyrically sums up what Funeral Doom is, period.
So for me, the sort of theme running through this song has to do with eternal and unending love after death. But I mean, it's very hard to do this when it's in a different language, and what they might mean might be slightly different than what we're getting when we have it in English. I think in general the theme would be that.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so.
And that was really all I got from it.
Absolutely beautifully written, though.
Yeah.
For the bits that we could translate, it was really,
Yeah.
really, really awesome.
Track 2 is called Under Ebony Shades.
Oh,
And
what a lovely title.
I love it. Love the title. Love that title. This is the one that I said had the sort of lullaby sound to it. But what is interesting, a couple words that are in here. So let me go back a bit to what I believe is kind of the theme of the song. Being let down by God during grief. And total despair. So like when you're being let down by God, you are in a state of total despair. Where do I look? Where do I look? What's happening? So what words in here that interested me were this word called falter. I had never seen this word like this, Faulter. And when I looked it up, what it represents is a wrongdoer who goes against the church. Oh, wrongdoer who goes against the church. So that's one of the words that was really interesting there to me. The other word that was really interesting, because I also had never seen this word, and it is actually an archaic word, and it is called avant, Avaunt, and it means go away. So we have some very dark sort of concepts in
I've now just come to the realization this is where Blackened Funeral Doom started as well, lyrically.
So Under Ebony Shades is a really good title because it's quite a dark. I mean, the sentence that uses falter, emaciated by their falter moves, right?
Oh, that is some really good imagery.
They hide under the cloak of blasphemy. So we've got
that is pure poetry.
Yeah, and it's also saying something about the church and how it
kind of deals with grief and loss.
How it abandons.
Yeah, and their time of need, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
My favorite line is, drags me down the abyss of endless loneliness. I think that
wow,
that's just chilling, and it's like knowing the full context. I think that sums it up.
Here's the actual theme, which I just said, but the very final well, let's see, it's not the very final, the next to the last stanzas. Now I loathe the presence of God, whom I had such trust in, only to be abandoned my hardest of times. You know, this is someone who did believe and now is let down. So
their faith is waning at this point. They're disheartened by this whole idea of, well, he was supposed to comfort me, and he doesn't.
Right. Once again, I'm thinking of altars of grief and Iris, but you know, like this is
like I said, this is like the blueprint, lyrically anyway, to Blackened Funeral Doom. So we almost have with this band a sort of Black Sabbath approach to their first album, where they pretty much created everything within the genre. And again, it's just their first album.
It definitely does do that. I see the differences in the different songs, and yet it's a cohesive whole.
Exactly.
But there are various themes and things running through it. It's really interesting. Demise. Okay. I really like this one. I really like them all. So this one, I enjoyed this theme of what I believe the theme is I believe that the reality of death is being depicted versus what our romanticized version
Yes.
of it is.
Yes, I would like to point out the romanticism part, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
in the reading of this 2 paragraphs here.
Oh dear, I wonder if they're mine too.
It'd be funny if it is. So it goes like this. Soul bells play in gardens of stone, everlasting monuments, petrified by grief, the remains of loved ones, now wither into dust and soil, again turning the wheels of life. From dust man rises, to dust man became. Oh.
So it's funny that you did read this paragraph, because basically what this means is the same thing that we always say: ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So this is what the reality of death is, right?
But again, it's also that
However,
romanticism of it at the end, where
yeah,
we emphasize this whole idea of, oh, you were from the soil and you shall return to the soil. It's such a great thing. No,
right.
it's shit.
So here we go. There's a funerary view that sort of makes it look, almost exciting. Exciting isn't the right word, but makes
pleasant,
it look
I think. Pleasant.
appealing in a way. What did you say? I'm
I
sorry.
think there's a pleasant feeling to it. It's like the pageantry.
Yes, that's a great word, pageantry. It's almost like a performance. And this is, okay, so here are some words I liked. We sing in our despair for hope, then rot in peace.
Yep.
Whoa, we rot. That word is the truth. That is, so we have both things right in that one sentence. We sing in our despair for hope. And you can almost picture people standing in church and singing a song, but then the reality of what's actually happening.
Well, keep in mind, we do these things in a ritualistic fashion. We gather with a group of people, we sing songs, whether it be at religious places or secular type places, or even poetry for that matter. You'll also get people who do the death wailing type thing. Others are very silent and concealed. These are all part and parcel of that ritual that they're describing here of how we deal with grief.
So we do this, do these pageants, and then but it's also talking about the reality. You have both in one.
Exactly, because again, when you are a bystander to watching someone go through these funeral processes, you have these thoughts, at least I do anyway, of going through all of this is pointless. But we do it anyway.
Yeah, we do it anyway.
They are basically worm food, but we do it anyway.
It's expected, and yet some people throw away tradition and do not go through this. And I mean, my parents do not want this, did not. My mother did not. There was nothing. So her belief, though, had a lot to do with that, because she just simply believes that when a person dies, that's it. So she had that belief. So why would you have a big fancy funeral if you didn't have that sort of belief behind it?
Right. Again, I think this is again the showing how the lyrics have stood the test of time. These are more relevant now more than ever. Again, guys, go and read these lyrics. They are fucking phenomenal.
When you put the music with the lyrics and read the lyrics while you're listening to the music, you will, I've said it every single time, haven't I? You will get the meaning. You will get the full meaning.
'Cause you can't have one without the other. You just
No,
couldn't.
you really can't. And I do this with all genres of music, not just
Aye.
this. Now, obviously, some they're speaking in English very clearly, and you understand exactly what's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
You know, but then others, you do want to kind of study the songs and understand what really is the meaning. When nightfall clasps. Ah, I love that word, clasps. So, not used very often to describe something like nightfall, but so this was the one that I called a bit heavier and slower. What I got from in general, just in general, and I loved this meaning of this. This is just how life is. We all die. This is the way of nature. Now, this brings me to something I want to say about this whole album. I feel as if all of the lyrics are pointing, starting with the flowers, coming all the way down to these last songs, nature. We have in the one song, the ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We have the flowers dying. We have this theme of that we all just die.
Mm-hmm.
And let me get.
I think nothing makes that more clearer than this line. Mankind lies in emptiness. All the mourners weep in silence.
Many of these words in here are very beautiful and they're very descriptive, but we will all die. We will receive the goal of our faith. We will all die. So I just think that this is the main, they're just talking about, this is what happens. Now, I don't think there's any deep meaning. I think it's just simply...
No. I think this song is simply straight to the point. They're not sugarcoating it too much like the other ones, where it was kind of like,
Right.
oh, we're going to use a bit more flowery shit to explain it. This one is, this is what it's all accumulating to.
Yes. And it is reiterated with the title, When Nightfall Clasps. Basically, when nightfall clasps, it's the end. Moment in Black. Okay, so this was the one that I said had a little bit of softer sound to it. So I did write some words down here from the song. Your door has opened for all to see. In other words, there's no more hiding. You're not hiding. And this, I believe, is talking about just a moment, and that is the last moment of a death, which also equals into there is a funeral going on. This is a funeral. And the question, though, is this all there is? In other words, this little thing that happens, which we will call a funeral, because in the scheme of life, it is a little thing. Okay, I'm just going to read the whole thing because it's short.
Well, I was going to just quickly point out my favorite line, which is literally the last line in it.
Yeah, so let me read it because I want to read the whole thing so we get the gist of it. And it is one of my favorites as well.
Okay.
She lays there dressed in silk, so pale, so cold. Your door has opened for all to see the pittiness that we suffer, guided to where no man returns or ever will. It is eternity. A spokesman of God gives the beauty away. Your door has been opened for all to see the pittiness that we suffer, guided to where no man returns or ever will. It is eternity. A brief moment in black. Is that all? Question mark.
It's that last line that sums it up for me. Is like
absolutely
we don these colors to represent our feelings and respect for the dead, but when we look back at how many times we have done this, it lasts maybe a week, maybe a few days.
What are you talking about? This is actually just a funeral, a moment.
I know, but what I'm saying is the idea of having these, like, darkened clothes for
Oh.
representing the idea of
Oh, yeah.
we've lost someone. We do not hold on to their memory long enough because it is just a moment. It's that one moment
Okay.
and then it's
So
done.
what I believe is going on here is this is a funeral.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
There's a
Absolutely.
question of, it's kind of like this. You mean I went through my whole life and this is all there is?
Exactly.
A goddamn funeral at the end,
Exactly.
and that's it. So it's a feeling of let downness.
Yeah.
So
But that's why
what
I'm
I
saying
think
I'm
they're
using that
talking about.
concept of, like, how we all dress in these dark colors to cement that moment when realistically, what was the point?
Right. Because this is maybe why my parents decided not to have funerals, because it is just kind of an emptiness. And I think that is maybe what they're talking about. Talking about how, let's see, where is the line here? A spokesman of God, that's the minister or priest, gives the beauty away. In other words, we're sending you off and you're going into the earth. Okay.
Absolutely. This is the element of, okay, we no longer have what would be the best term here? The pleasure, I guess, of being around the person anymore, and we're having now to give this to a representative that doesn't give a fuck.
Right. Okay, and here we go. Your door has been opened for all to see. Think about this. When you're dead and you're all dressed up, laid out in a coffin, looking like wax. Sorry, but you don't look like yourself anymore. And for all to see, it's kind of like,
you're looking. Yeah, it's basically an open casket. It's an open casket viewing, and
I've been to many open casket funerals, and I'm going to tell you what, I don't like them. They're effigies, basically. I mean, there is no soul any longer. It is just body.
Right. The consciousness has obviously, dissipated, but there are some people that need that last moment of clarity. And again, I think this is also what the song touches upon. Here's this brief moment of clarity. Are you happy? Did it make you feel any better? No, it didn't.
Right. That's the point. I think that's it right there. We do this, but it doesn't really do anything.
No.
I mean,
again, this is why, if you go back,
I think the reason some people like the pageantry of a funeral, and some people love to have big funerals and want a big send away, is because it's part of their tradition and their family or their religion, or they just think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, not only that, but you also have these ideas of, I want to be remembered as much as possible, so I'll put on this big giant party almost, so people won't forget me within a day or two. And again, if we go back to the idea of, like, some of the other lyrics, we've got this idea of, we sing for hope. We want to know that, whether you're dead or the loved one is dead, that you can come out of it better, wiser. Do you have a better grasp on life?
These are all big questions, and we're not going to answer them tonight. So
no, of course not. This is that would mean we would dive into a big, huge philosophical ethics course, and I don't think we have time for that.
I guess, in other words, I also put, I guess I did read this already, there is no hiding now, and I think,
well, you're looking at reality now. There's no sense of putting it off.
Yeah. Whatever that person was when they were alive, that is no more. And here we are, open door, everybody looks. And
it's the same concept of, I could read you like an open book. Album art. So this is old school as fuck for doing album art.
Oh, okay.
What we have here is a image that is a metaphor. We have a dying leaf from autumn. We've got autumn colors, and we have a painting that has been photoshopped over the top of this, Unfortunately, I do
Right,
not
and
know
this
where
looks
the
like
image.
looks like some old like Christian image from some famous, I don't know what famous painting, but you know, like either Renaissance
I was
or
thinking
something like that.
Renaissance time period myself,
Yeah,
actually. But
yeah.
basically, we have this female figure, I assume,
I
staring
don't
up.
know. That's got an Adam's apple. I don't know. But you
Oh,
know what?
so
We're not gonna split hairs here.
no, but basically, what we have is a figure staring up in lament. There is
Yeah,
tears. There's
yeah.
this despaired look. There's hopelessness. And I think what this represents is these are the tears and hopelessness of what autumn represents, that slow death into winter.
I actually see something different when I look at this. Okay, I think, remember how I said the overall theme of the entire album had to do with nature and the natural order of things? So I think that's what it's alluding to.
Ah, so they're mourning the concept of like how nature doesn't give a fuck one way or the other, it just does. It's natural
Right.
processes.
So, in other words, the human who is just despairing, possibly looking up to the heavens or whatever, inside the
The natural forces.
naturally dying leaf. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's like we're trying to like call on a higher power while nature surrounds us saying, I don't give a fuck.
right. Like, you know, we all just turn into mush anyways,
Right, right,
everything,
right. Again, this is
whether you're
why.
a leaf or a human, you know? I think
Right.
that's really
See,
what
this
I
is
see.
why.
But,
Again, I
yeah.
think the idea behind this is actually genius. What would you score the album art out of 10?
Well, it's the one thing I do notice, it's a little choppy around the edges down here of the leaf. Like it's the that's a technical,
Well,
like you
like I
were
said, it's
talking
90s is
about
all hell.
Photoshop. This is these are technical kind of issues.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. That part's
Okay,
irrelevant.
so if we could erase the technical issues, what would I score it? Oh, I don't know. I hate scoring the album art. It's just so hard to do. I would say 9.
A 9? I would
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, yeah. I would give it a solid 9. Album scoring. We've
Well,
got an album.
I know what I'm going to say right off the bat. You probably do too.
All right,
And
all right,
I
all right.
know what you're going to say too.
Okay, okay. Without any of the pomp and circumstance.
But do you know why though? Or are we
Well,
going to wrap that up?
we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm gonna go with 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, of course.
The whole overall theme, everything about it, 10 out of 10.
I mean, the fact that it's the very first
Exactly.
album ever created, I would say that right there deserves a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, pretty much.
Plus, it's put together very well, and it's beautiful and very interesting.
Again, like we said earlier, we could go on to a full-on 4-hour discussion about the philosophy behind it.
I know.
And that's intriguing to me.
It's really deep. I don't think you could be some lightheaded little flip-flop and
no,
like,
God no.
You wouldn't understand it. You know,
you have to have, at least 2 brain cells to rub together, I think.
Overall, a very pleasant to listen to album with a deep, dark message in a way, but also just a look at, it's kind of like a glimpse into life/death.
Yes, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I could say that, as the official spokesman for the band, I would like to say just a small paragraph here. Over the 30 plus years of playing Funeral Doom, and of course creating this wonderful genre, the band continues to stand the test of time, even with their latest album. I would encourage anyone that has just recently got into the band to check out this album. Links in the description as always. Until next time, mourners, remember, every day is a funeral.